In at number 10, Amy Schumer. Amy Schumer was one of the co-hosts of the show, along with Regina Hall and Wanda Sykes. They were all busy when the slap occurred, but they were told about it by their teams afterward. When Amy Schumer came back to the stage after the slap, she made a joke of the situation, saying, quote, "Did I miss anything? There's like a different vibe in here." She shared her thoughts later on Instagram, writing in the caption, quote, "I think we can all agree that the best way to unpack what happened is to stream my series, Life and Beth Hulu, and see me on tour this fall. I love my friend Chris Rock and I believe he handled it like a pro. Stayed up there and gave an Oscar to his friend Questlove, and the whole thing was just so disturbing. So much pain in Will Smith. Anyway, I'm still in shock and stunned and sad. I'm proud of myself and my co-hosts, but yeah, waiting for the sickening feeling to go away from what we all witnessed." In at number 9, Bill Maher. Late night host Bill Maher defended his friend Chris Rock and saluted him for keeping his composure, telling TMZ, quote, "I think Chris Rock did a lot of good. I thought he reacted as well as you could in that situation. It was not a good look for Will. I could make a case that we've all been under a lot of pressure and there's a lot of emotion running through him. It was just out of line and it reinforced the idea that jokes are the enemy. It's sort of like cancel culture encapsulated." Maher added that Rock is a hero for how he handled the situation, adding, quote, "We are looking at someone to pull it together with dignity and get the train back on tracks. He did it and I think you should get a lot of credit for it." In at number 8, Ethan Klein. One YouTuber that made their thoughts incredibly clear was Ethan Klein, who posted a string of tweets denouncing Will's actions. He tweeted, quote, "Will Smith is just a walking L since his wife decided to start weekly humiliating him on her Facebook show. Probably should deal with whatever trauma he has with her instead of punching Chris Rock in the face for an extremely tame joke. He needs to be escorted out of the Oscars. L." Adding in another tweet, quote, "Will Smith won and got a standing ovation. I'm in awe. The show went on like nothing happened. Will Smith punched a comedian for doing his job. He's a celebrity in the front row of the Oscars where it's normal to be roasted. Bad taste or not, defending Will equals brain rot." Many pointed out that Will only did what he did because Chris made fun of his wife's alopecia, but Klein did not back down and said that's no reason to slap someone in the face. And at number 7, Howard Stern. Howard Stern did not hold back on his Monday morning radio show, completely blasting Will Smith for his actions. Stern said, quote, "What you saw on TV was a guy with real issues. That's crazy. That's crazy when you can't contain yourself." His co-host Robin Quivers called the smack a, quote, "blindsided attack," noting that Rock had no idea the hit was coming. Both Stern and Quivers blasted the Academy for not immediately ejecting Smith from the event, with Stern adding, quote, "You don't provide security? You don't have someone come up there? Chris Rock was just trying to make people laugh at the ceremony, which was so long and boring." Comic Nikki Glasser called into the show to agree, with her adding that she is afraid of what might happen to other comedians when they make a risky joke at a comedy club. All three blasted the inaction from other celebrities in the room and the Academy for doing nothing. And at number 6, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin tweeted almost immediately after the slap to condemn Will Smith's actions. She also acknowledged how this action could affect comedy as a whole and make being a comedian more dangerous than it already is. She tweeted, quote, "Let me tell you something, it's a very bad practice to walk up on stage and physically assault a comedian. Now we all have to worry about who wants to be the next Will Smith in comedy clubs and theaters." Halfway at number 5, Judd Apatow. After the shocking altercation, some celebrities took to Twitter to share how much they disagreed with Will Smith's actions. Director Judd Apatow was probably the most vocal, who said in a series of tweets, quote, "Seems like Will Smith's plan to get comedians in the world to not make jokes about him is not going to pan out. The Williams family must be furious, pure narcissism. Also, G.I. Jane was gorgeous. What exactly is insulting about being compared to a ripped, stunning Demi?" He then replied to a tweet that mentioned that Will did what he did because Rock was insulting her alopecia. Apatow then doubled down, writing, quote, "He could have killed him. That's pure out of control rage and violence. They've heard a million jokes about them in the last 3 decades. They're not freshmen in the world of Hollywood and comedy. He lost his mind." Apatow has since deleted these tweets, but we can assume that he meant every word. And at number 4, Zoe Kravitz. After the award show, Zoe Kravitz took to Instagram to slam Will Smith. She posted 2 photos back to back, one showing her Grammys look and another showing her look for the Vanity Fair after party. The captions on the photos read, quote, "Here's a picture of my dress at the show where we are apparently assaulting people on stage now." The other said, quote, "Here's a picture of my dress at the party after the award show where we are apparently screaming profanities and assaulting people on stage now." Shockingly, Zoe actually got a lot of backlash for condemning Will Smith. Many people said she should have just stayed out of it and kept quiet. Many also pointed out that she had been friends with the Smith family in the past, and she was even uncomfortably close with Jaden Smith while he was still a teen. In at number 3, Jim Carrey. Comedian Jim Carrey is another person who has been incredibly vocal about his disgust for Smith's actions. He also slammed the Oscars and Hollywood in general for condoning such a terrible action. During an interview with CBS's Gayle King, Carrey said, quote, "I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. Hollywood is just spineless and mass, and it really felt like it was a clear indication that we aren't the cool club anymore." Carrey told King that Smith should have been escorted out and arrested. Carrey also said that if he were Chris Rock, he would have sued Will Smith. Adding, quote, "I'd have announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million because that video is going to be there forever. It's going to be ubiquitous." Carrey also slammed how this could affect comedians in the future, continuing, quote, "That insult is going to last a very long time. If you want to yell from the audience and show disapproval or something like that on Twitter, that's fine. You do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack someone in the face because they said words." And at number 2, Wanda Sykes. Following her gig co-hosting the Oscars, Wanda Sykes went on The Ellen Show to share her feelings on the award show. Sykes was very open about her disapproval of Will Smith and the Academy for not doing more to protect the presenters. Sykes said, quote, "It was sickening. I felt physically ill and I'm still a little traumatized by it." Sykes told Ellen during the interview that Smith should have been removed from the building immediately after he slapped Rock. Adding, quote, "For them to let him stay in that room and enjoy the rest of the show and accept his award, I was like, how gross is this? This is just the wrong message. You assault somebody, you get escorted out of the building, and that's it." After lots of pushback, the Academy revealed that after the slap, they did ask Will Smith to leave, but he refused. Wanda added that she was hoping that when he won, she would be able to go out and say that he had left the building. But obviously that did not happen, and he got a standing ovation when he won for King Richard. And finally, at number 1, the Oscars. After the slap, the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences tweeted that they do not condone the violence that took place at the Oscars. But since they let Will Smith stay in the audience and still gave him the award, that didn't seem to be true to those watching. The Oscars then submitted another statement on Wednesday, days after the show, to reveal that they actually asked him to leave after the altercation, but he refused. The statement said, quote, "Things unfolded in a way we could not have anticipated. While we would like to clarify that Mr. Smith was asked to leave the ceremony and refused, we also recognize we could have handled the situation differently." After this, we got to hear Chris Rock speak for the first time since the incident during one of his comedy shows in Boston. He asked the crowd, quote, "How was your weekend?" clearly acknowledging the elephant in the room. He then added, quote, "I'm still kind of processing what happened." However, he didn't comment on it further and promised that he would discuss it in greater depth later. Lamar Odom is first up on the list as someone who, for some reason, turned the whole conversation back on himself and trying to win back Khloe Kardashian, even though she wants absolutely nothing to do with him now. When asked about his reaction to the slap heard across the world, he stated, quote, "He loves his wife. I do not condone violence against anyone. Will Smith loves Jada Pinkett Smith. I was told love covers a multitude of sins. Had I protected my wife," referring to Khloe, "versus mentally, emotionally, and spiritually hurting her, I may still be married. I respect a man who doesn't quit the hustle, even though it's definitely not gonna happen." Either way, he seems a lot more empathetic for Will Smith's cause than the average person. Jane Hubert is next on the list. She portrayed Aunt Viv in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air alongside Will Smith in his younger years. Although she did say that both parties were acting wrongly in this circumstance, she did extend some more sympathy towards Will Smith. Quote, "There's only so much one can take, sometimes you have to slap back. Celebrate the win, nothing else matters. Both actions were incorrect, but Chris didn't need to go there." Likely by there, she meant poking fun at Jada's autoimmune disorder of alopecia. Next up on the list is MJ Rodriguez. MJ is a Golden Globe winner and a GLAAD honoree who has shown some support for Will. She's known for her roles in Nurse Jackie and Tick Tick Boom. She felt the need to show some kindness towards the Men in Black actor during the Vanity Fair Oscar after party the night of the slap. Quote, "Sometimes when you're speaking about somebody's wife, you can't really help that. So that's what I would say. I think a lot of people are showing more empathy for Will, who was caught in kind of a tough situation of feeling the need to defend his wife from something she's sensitive about. I think you can recognize when someone is wrong and still understand why they did what they did, as it seems to be the case with MJ here." Next on my list is a US Congresswoman named Ayanna Pressley, who I guess didn't have much else going on that day because America is notoriously peaceful. In a since-deleted tweet, she posted a picture of herself and her husband. She's also got alopecia like Jada, and the tweet said, quote, "Alopecia Nation stand up. Thank you, Will Smith. Shout out to all the husbands who defend their wives living with alopecia in the face of daily ignorance and insults. Women with baldies are for real men only. Boys need not apply. I love this trend of other notable people who decide to just make the whole thing about themselves. Next on my list is Jaden Smith. Okay, this one is kind of cheating because obviously he'd have to defend his own family and stay on his dad's side, but I'm still gonna count it. After the Oscars party had occurred and war was raging on Twitter in full swing, Jaden simply showed his support for his dad with a tweet. He said, quote, "And that's how we do it." The tweet got over 1 million likes and tons of attention from people who continued fighting in the comment section, obviously because what else is Twitter for? Of course, Jaden would side with his own father, but it's interesting that both Jada and Willow at the time of writing this have remained entirely silent, although I think that that may be the smarter of two choices when it comes to the backlash that they could face while the world is looking in on their family. Next up is, surprisingly, Jim Carrey. When the Oscar slap first occurred, Jim Carrey was super outspoken about how deplorable getting up on stage and slapping someone is. He very specifically said that the moment when Will went on stage was, quote, "sickening." Initially, he described the incident as deplorable and that celebrities aren't cool anymore. However, while he was promoting Sonic the Hedgehog 2, he elaborated in his previous comments with a quote, "The fact is that license is being given to people to act out violently when they don't like what they hear, and it just shouldn't be. I also think that people not unlike Will or myself, we live in a lot of pressure. We set up a lot of pressure for ourselves, and we're encouraged by this country to never stop and never be satisfied and never take a look at our lives and go, you know what, I'm enough. I've had enough. I've done enough. I don't need 9 businesses. I don't need to be a movie producer, director, writer, actor, star, and have a record company, and be on TikTok, and be on social media, and have a reality show, and share my innermost life on some therapy show. I don't condemn him for that, it's just wrong." Jim was super eloquent about the whole thing, and although he didn't outright fully take Will's side, he did defend him, and he does believe that we shouldn't be so harsh on someone who's so involved in the pressure of being in the spotlight. Next on my list is kind of, in my opinion, a definite defense of Will Smith. And it's the entire Oscars crowd. While we do have some memorable reactions to the shouting match that went on for a bit, when Will went up on stage again, this time to accept his Oscar for King Richard, he was met with a standing ovation. Everyone in that crowd got up and clapped for him. This tells me that when everyone decided to condemn Will for his action, they were only doing so because that became the popular opinion. To go from a standing ovation and encouraging Smith after he slapped another performer instead of speaking in private with him afterwards, to now condemning him on Twitter and labeling his actions as deplorable, it just tells me that your morals only go with what is popular and don't actually speak for what you genuinely believe. I just feel like this whole thing really reveals the hypocrisy of Hollywood. At the end of the day, saying that Will could have killed Chris Rock is absolutely ridiculous, and just further shows how soft the industry actually is. They outcry that this is an act of violence while committing heinous acts themselves that, just because people aren't caught, it didn't happen. Next on the list of celebs who defended Will Smith is rapper Nicki Minaj. The artist went on a bit of a rant on Twitter about the altercation. She tweeted out, quote, "I love Chris Rock. I don't think he would have made that joke had he known what Jada recently shared, but between him and the whole team on the Oscars, you mean to tell me not one of y'all heard this woman just share her heartbreaking story? Come on, son. You just got to witness in real time what happens in a man's soul when he looks over to the woman he loves and sees her holding back tears from a little joke at her expense. This is what any and every real man feels in that instance. While y'all seeing this joke, he's seeing her pain." It seems that she was more interested in the defense of Jada rather than the reaction itself. I think she really feels for a man who is attempting to defend his wife even if it is a wholly inappropriate situation. Second to last on my list is Tiffany Haddish. Tiffany also took a similar stance to Nicki Minaj in the sense that she also felt that Will was trying to protect his wife. Speaking to the Los Angeles Times, Tiffany stated, quote, "I think Chris was messy. As a woman who had a husband, I wish my husband would have stood up for me the way Will stood up for Jada. That's what every woman wants, right? She was hurt and he protected his wife, and that's what a man is supposed to do." Although not many people defended Smith, the ones that do seem to focus less on his action and more so on how he decided to protect Jada rather than remain silent. Last on the list is Jamila Jamil. Jamila always one with an opinion, and more so one that's wrong rather than right.
also chose to spoke out in defense of Will. Her reaction was much more unique than I think the others are, and that's why I put it last. The actress took to Twitter to speak about the Oscars slap. Quote, "Will Smith said not today. A man big enough to absolutely floor him slapped him softly enough that Chris barely moved because he made fun of his wife's alopecia on a world stage. Don't say protect black women for 2 years and then only condemn Will here. Come on." I don't personally see how this was an attack against black women, but maybe that's not my place to say.